Whoa, whoa, whoa. Tom and Mary Johnson, Maple Street's in 99. He's at the kitchen table, 6 a.m., the screen's blue light. She's got the smart speaker listening, every whisper, every prayer. Their daughter's face lit up at midnight by the tablet's empty stare. They signed 1,000 agreements, never read a single line. They said you will own nothing, it was always the design. Tom checked his retirement, thought he had it saved away, but he's just holding IOUs. The banks get paid first when it breaks. He bought the coin that promised him would set his family free, but every transaction on the chain was there for all to see. Mary got the diagnosis, found her records had been sold. They want us to own nothing, not our health, our wealth, our soul. And one night at the kitchen table, hands around the coffee cups, Tom looked at Mary and Mary looked at Tom, and both said, that's enough. We'll own none but our freedom. Well, and where they cannot see, we'll own nothing but tomorrow. Wallet to wallet, finally free. They said we'll own nothing, we'll own our destiny. We found another way. Now they're trading private coins, no ledger they can read, money that can't be frozen, transactions they can't see. Daughter's learning in her kitchen, not a screen that steals her soul. Son knows how to build things on nothing they control. Found 1,000 other families, wallets lean but names unknown. When they said we'd own nothing, we build a world they'll never own. We'll own nothing but our freedom, building where they cannot see. We'll own nothing but tomorrow, wallet to wallet, finally free. They said we'll own nothing, we'll own our destiny. We found another way. If you already own nothing, what you got to lose? If they already took it all, what's left for you to choose? You can sit and wait for permission, or you can finally move. Own nothing, then build everything. We got nothing left to lose. We'll own nothing but our freedom, building where they cannot see. We'll own nothing but tomorrow, wallet to wallet, finally free. They said we'll own nothing, well, we'll own our destiny. We found another way. Tom and Mary Johnson, they don't own a thing they say, but they got nothing left to lose now. Come and build another way. watchful eye. Sovereign money, sovereign mind, leave their broken world behind. So low, low, we go low. We go low. We go low. Every click you make, every form you sign, every cent you take, they're watching all the time. Every word you speak, every thought you share, they're building up a cage and you don't even care. But we see through the screen now, we're breaking from the machine now. Building something they can't take, sovereign ground for freedom's sake. Programmable money, permission to exist, frozen when you question, deleted from the list. But parallel is rising underneath their feet. A million points of light on every single street. But we see through the screen now, we're breaking from the machine now. Building something they can't take, sovereign ground for freedom's sake. They own the data, they own the feed, they own the money, they own the need, but they don't own the fire inside. They don't own the will to rise. We see through the screen now, we're breaking from the machine now. Building something they can't take, sovereign ground for freedom's sake. For freedom's sake. Sovereign ground. Freedom's sake. We don't bow, we don't break, We don't give what they can take. We don't bow, we don't break. We don't give what they can take.
Roger stood with fire in his hand. Wheeling built a haven on free land.
Roman wrote the code they fear the most. Now they're ghosts in the machine they boast.
They dress it up as law and order, but it's chains across the border. Can't hide the truth in paper lies.
Freedom's got a billion eyes. We don't bow, we don't break. We don't give what they can take. Write our names in fire and gold. We won't do what we are told. We don't bow, we don't break. Yeah, yo. EO 14067. A law that kills the hope we're given. But paper crowns will wash away when the people rise one day.
Roger in Roman's name. We'll sing 'em loud, we'll light that flame.
Every cage they try to build, ooh, will break when voices won't be still. Roger, we will stand for you. Ian, we will fight it through. Roman, your code will run. Freedom's rise has just begun. We don't bow, we don't bow, we don't break. We don't break, we don't give what they can take. We don't bow, we don't break. We don't give what they can take. Write our names in fire and gold. We won't do what we are told. We don't bow, we don't break. We don't give what they can take.
Welcome back to the Aaron Day Show. This is season 2, episode 52. This is about Elon Musk's Technocracy Endgame. As you can see, I'm actually not at home. I'm actually traveling. I'm in Florida, so I have a different setup. So I'm hoping, but you never know. The internet just about cut out right before the show began. So the connection's been fairly stable the whole time we're here. So hopefully we won't have too many complications with this. Please let me know if you can hear me or not hear me in the comments. I have a situation where it looks like I'm speaking, but I'm not actually able to hear out of these headphones. So hopefully all will be well, and somebody will report back if there are any issues. There's actually quite a bit to go through here tonight with this Elon Musk issue. I've started to address it multiple times on many different podcasts, and I thought I'd lay out kind of the entire story. And it's particularly relevant because I recently wrote a post, which turns out to be the most viral post that I've put out there. It has about 4.6 million views. And I summarized the terms of service the updated terms of service, because I logged into X one day and it said, hey, click here to see the new terms of service. And so given that we have ownnothing.org, and one of the purposes of ownnothing.org is to educate people about click wrap agreements and the rights that people have been given up with these click wrap agreements, I thought I would take the opportunity to see what an analysis of this agreement shows. And as you can suspect, it's a nightmare. I mean, you're basically giving Musk all of your data. You have no. I'll walk through all the details of this, but this became a very popular post, and a lot of people indicated that they were going to quit X, and the new terms come into effect January the 15th of next year. But the reality is the updated terms aren't much different than the previous terms. So a lot of people, particularly artists, are saying, oh, well, you know, if I sign this agreement, I'm going to lose all the ownership of my artwork. And the truth is that those were already in the terms that you already agreed to. But what this shows to me is that there is quite a bit of interest in this click wrap agreement concept. And because if people think that agreement is bad, wait until they learn about all of the rest of big tech and finance and healthcare and everything else. And so this just highlights to me how important it is that we share this information about these click wrap agreements, because once people are aware, they become very animated about the situation. But anyway, there's a lot to go and discuss on that issue tonight. But before we do that, there are some other housekeeping items and you know, kind of updates from the last few episodes. First of all, I want to encourage everybody to go and visit freeiannow.org and sign the petition in support of Ian. You know, President Trump may be doing another round of pardons, possibly even before Christmas, and I think that we want to do everything that we can to raise the profile of Ian Freeman. And if you're not familiar with the story, you can also learn more about that at freeiannow.org. But of course, if you're a regular listener, I've talked about this quite a bit. My wife and I sat in on his sentencing hearing. I mean, Ian's been a huge liberty activist for decades. He and his business partner, Mark Edge, started Free Talk Live, which is a nationally syndicated radio show promoting libertarianism. In fact, last time I checked, more than 10% of the people that moved to the Free State Project, including me, did so because they heard about it on Free Talk Live. And so when the government decided that they were going full speed ahead on CBDCs and wanted to crack down on crypto, they went to the source. They went to people that were the most effective at promoting cryptocurrency as an alternative to not digital currencies, but just central banks in general. And then moving forward, the threat of CBDCs. And so Ian was targeted and I would argue entrapped. You know, they charged him ultimately with a bunch of things, but the one that stuck the most was conspiracy to commit money laundering, which is absolutely absurd when you read the facts of the case. And they tried to get him for, you know, selling Bitcoin without a license, even though he had an opinion letter from the attorney. This is the same as all of these other cases that we've seen. Ian is someone who actually got a legal opinion before doing what he was doing, and the government doesn't like him because he's promoting liberty, and so they did everything they could to manufacture charges against him. So he's sitting in prison now for 8 years. So I encourage you, he deserves a pardon. I encourage you to go to freeiannow.org and to sign that petition. So I'm having huge delays here with moving these slides. So, you know, hopefully this won't be too much of a problem. To recap the previous episodes, the last episode we did was it was entitled America 1.0 is over. And I kind of made the case for the fact that we already own nothing. And it's not just click wrap agreements. A lot of what we don't own stems from things that we've never even signed. Like in the case of healthcare, where, you know, if you're taking a prescription drug, you are subject to the package inserts, even though you never signed an agreement, or all of the government surveillance that Edward Snowden and others have pointed out that goes on without your consent or even knowledge, or even increasingly the surveillance that's going on within schools. So related to this the talk about America 1.0, I launched the newest version of I launched the newest version of the ownnothing.org site, which has some questions that you can answer. It basically computes a sovereignty score. So you answer questions in a number of different areas, like what is my financial sovereignty, health sovereignty, importantly, attention sovereignty, your time and attention, how is that being hijacked? And then it gives you a score. And the more important part about it isn't the score, although the point of the score is to make the case that, which most people aren't aware, that you really have already given up your sovereignty. But the more important thing is to promote solutions and actions that you can take to improve your score and to improve your sovereignty. And this is going to be probably the basis of what I'm going to be doing in 2026, because this Own Nothing site is really the portal to everything else. The other sites, talk about are sites that are more oriented around the solutions, but Own Nothing, I think, is going to be the primary way to help educate people about the reality of the situation. The episode prior to that, we talked about, it's quite the lag. We talked about Confidential Layer, season 2, episode 50. I encourage you to check that out if you have Bitcoin or Ethereum or BNB or Solana, and you're worried about the fact that it's transparent. You're worried about the fact that either criminals can identify you and potentially cause you physical harm, or kidnap you, or use physical threats to steal your coins, which has happened increasingly. Multiple, I walked through the horror stories there. Or you're worried about government tracking and government confiscation. I encourage you to learn about that and how you can use Confidential Layer to make these transparent cryptocurrencies private. Before we even get into the Musk thing, every time I start working on something related to Musk, my feed is just filled with Musk stuff. Usually, frankly, it's pro-Musk propaganda. So it's almost hard to even do an episode about Musk, knowing that how much real-time propaganda and information is going to appear. But I thought this one was really interesting today. If you take a look at this tweet, so David Sachs, who is part of the PayPal mafia, knows Musk, knows Thiel, worked with those guys, and is now our crypto AI czar, put out a post that says new polling shows that the public favors a single national AI framework over a 50-state patchwork by 20 points, and moreover supports executive action until Congress can act. Total vindication for President Trump's one rulebook approach. So first of all, I dug into this, and it turns out that the group that funded the poll was a group that Elon Musk is the largest donor to. It was a 501c4 that supported Trump, and they hired a polling firm that also works with and is associated with Trump. So you have a government official. I don't even know if a czar is technically official. I don't even know how his role fits in from a technical perspective. But you have effectively a government official setting government policy, pushing clear propaganda, and he even got community noted on this. He got community noted on this, talking about the fact that the claims that he made about, support for executive, he didn't even interpret the poll right, nor did he mention the fact that the poll itself is pure propaganda that's funded by one of the largest beneficiaries of national regulation. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not in favor of any of the regulation that's going to come out of it. I mean, at the state or national level, it's all going to be detrimental, just simply because these politicians don't understand the technology, and whatever regulation they're going to come up with will benefit either big players at the national level or whatever the local players are, however it would break to benefit their constituents. So whether it's, if it would help Senator B with a data center to provide jobs in his area, then that's how they're going to push this at a state level. it's all, none of it's going to protect anyone. There will not be a single citizen protected by this. But understand, this whole push for a national AI policy is going to do nothing but benefit the big tech players. And it's rolled into energy policy, and it's also rolled into national security. And so what we're going to get out of this is just more and more technocratic acceleration. So this is an interesting and relevant post to tonight's conversation because it's Musk funding this. And when you see the terms and conditions that are in the X agreement, you'll understand why you probably wouldn't be a real big fan of whatever Elon's pushing, setting the framework for the regulatory environment. Because let me put it this way, you will own nothing if that's the case. And again, you already do. So I'm not going to go through all the sites, but I encourage you to visit all of these sites. And by the end of January, these will all be fully version 1.0 ready to go. They're all in various stages of alpha or beta right now. So you can look at them and play with them and understand they're not by any means in their final form. But Own Nothing gives you the ability to understand your sovereignty in terms of attention, money, health, government, schools, ownership, and contracts. And it's really going in an interesting way because, again, the whole point of it is to be a quick diagnostic tool to help people understand truly what they've given up and the fact that they don't own anything. You don't own your house, you don't own your car, you don't own your stocks, your bonds, your 401ks, you don't own any of your information. You've given up your ability to sue. You've given up your privacy. It's really horrendous. And you know, as much as this post about the X agreement went incredibly viral, the X agreement isn't even the worst. It's not even the worst within social media. I mean, there are a lot of people that are saying, well, I'm going to switch to this company or I'm going to switch to this company. They're not any better. Somebody tried to community note my post, which accurately summarized the terms, but by saying, well, yeah, but this isn't news. They just updated, 95% of this contract was the same as the previous year, which, I don't know why that's a useful community note. I didn't claim. Anyway, it didn't get added. The community note at the end didn't get added, but hopefully people will start to wake up about these agreements and these tools that will help people without having to read 50 pages, but will give you a score and show you what you've given up, will change people's perspective. And the opening song that we played, and my wife contributed to this section of the song in a big way, is that there's a section in there that, what have you got to lose? And in fact, this was essentially the main point of the song, because once you realize there's so many people sitting in fear trying to protect what they think they own, and once you realize you already don't own it, you're kind of wasting your time trying to preserve something that you really have already lost ownership and rights to. And this is the most important thing in terms of building parallel systems and moving things to the next level. Sorry about that. The wind is really picked up here, so hopefully the audio, we're shutting the windows now, so hopefully that will add a little bit to the clarity of the broadcast. So anyway, check out ownnothing.com. Also, I encourage you to check out Technocracy Atlas, which I have updated, and there are even bigger updates coming. I was going to do a huge update around Epstein. I already had all of the Epstein files in there before, and I'm adding things like the ability to search pictures and other things. But the redactions were so heavy that it's not even that. It's a joke. I mean, the new added content isn't all that helpful, but I've added some new sections to the website, which I'm going to deploy over the next few weeks, but I've already built them and I'm testing them, that will allow people to draw visual connections between people and ideas and then link that into all of the data that we have. And we have something now like 450 million words in the actual database. So, and it's not Epstein focused, it's broadly technocracy focused. So it has, Patrick Wood's work, it has a whole bunch of work, G. Edward Griffin books, websites, materials, the original Technocracy, documents and then the Epstein documents and several other data collections. And so you can actually see what's in there. But this is not a chat bot that's, this isn't Chat GPT trained on Reddit where you're typing in information. This is actually pulling from original source data. So have expanded my AI, and I've gotten I now have a 120 terabyte RAID disk system and everything. And I'm continuing to build and acquire more primary source information so that when you are searching on any of the sites, because all of the 6 sites that we're running are going to have custom chatbots. Some already do, some don't. But it's going to be based on actual data coming from the site. It's actually going to go or from primary sources that we've collected. So what's coming next is the ability for people to crowdsource research. Because from my perspective, I mean, at this point, I don't understand how people tolerate this. I mean, I even asked Grok, ironically, what would Thomas Jefferson and the founders have thought about the current situation where the government is covering up for, pedophiles and for other governments that are involved in blackmail operations and providing 90% redacted documents and everything else. I mean, it is not American to continue to tolerate this. What I want the site to become is something where we can crowdsource research, including crowdsourcing research on the investigation and the cover up around the documents itself, because there's absolutely no reason to believe that the FBI or the CIA or the DOJ is going to, in any way, shape, or form, investigate any of this information. I mean, it would be beyond naive to think that. And so, well, this is something that we can do. And so Technocracy Atlas is kind of an open source version of Palantir. As always, I encourage you to go to theaarondayshow.com. And when you're watching this episode, there's also a live chat component there as well. I think that it's very likely that I'm going to be either shadow banned or booted from these other platforms because, as we know, and as we'll discuss, and as is indicated in the terms and conditions of the X agreement itself, freedom of reach and the contract terms that Elon has gives him the ability and the authority to basically shut off any content for any reason. And we've seen him do this. And so Musk is one of the largest technocrats out there. The people backing Rumble, excuse me, are also technocrats. So there is no reason to believe that they are going to allow this information to spread. So, but I've built a lot of features into theaarondayshow.com. I've recently updated all the music videos. I think there are 4 or 5 of them now that I've created. So they're through the site. So there's a lot of content. There's the ability to search all of the episodes. I'm even adding the ability to do a video search where you're not just searching the transcript of the video, but you can ask something like, hey, what were the episodes where Aaron was wearing red glasses? And it will actually pull up that information as well. So it's going to be the single best site, not only for information, but for chat, for discussions, and for a whole variety of other things. So please check that out. And then this is the second to last episode of the year. On Monday, we're going to have the final episode, and next Monday, we're not doing the show on Thursday since it is Christmas, but I'm hoping to have, and it looks like we'll have Mike Adams on. So either he'll be live or we'll do a pre-recorded segment, and that is going to be about AI. So that's going to be a kind of a year-end wrap-up on what Mike and I have been doing with AI, but more importantly, talking about the fact that there is, just as with digital currencies, there's a private self-custody version, and then there are tyrannical technocratic CBDCs and government-regulated stablecoins. The same is true with AI, and Mike has done a tremendous job with his BrightU.ai AI that you can actually download, and it's only 7 gigabytes. You can actually store it on your computer or your phone. But he's also launched this BrightBooks.ai as well, and I've created 6 books already. He's up to 6,500 books. So people have created 6,500 books using his platform, and he has collected a petabyte of information and spent $2 million and then actually decades with his work at Health Ranger and everything else, collecting all of this primary source information. So you can go and put in a prompt up to 7,500 characters, and it will generate a full book that is fully references his primary source material. So again, it doesn't hallucinate, and it's not pulling from guessing what the words are. It's actually pulling from his direct content. So 6,500 books so far. He's adding the ability for, it's all, Creative Commons. You can do whatever you want with the material, provided that you reference where it came from. And you're now going to be able to edit the books. He's working on foreign languages. He's adding more content. So I look forward to having Mike on and encourage you to check that out as well. So we're going to get into the topic at hand tonight, and let me just pull up my information on this. This is a nuanced topic, because the problem with this topic is, on the one hand, and this is even true with libertarians, where you'll hear libertarians say, well, Musk is he's the wealthiest man on the planet. He's really successful, and they want to give him a complete pass, or they use the fact that he's successful, and if you're critical of him, it must mean you're either jealous or you don't like capitalism or any of these other things. And we've really fallen into this complete trap of believing in white knights across the board, politically, in business, wherever it happens to be, and we get rugged on this every time. But this is probably one of the biggest areas where there's a big risk, and so the issue here is not. I don't dislike Elon for the sake of disliking Elon, and to be clear, from my perspective on this, I mean, I'm still a customer of X. I use Grok occasionally. I use it as one of the AIs that I use. I use Starlink. And I've actually bought the first Tesla Model S in New Hampshire in 2013. So this is not, what I'm saying here isn't about, oh, it's horrible that no one should make this amount of money, or it's none of that. Nor is this in any way an indictment of capitalism at all. None of that is true. What my concerns are about are completely related to the ideology that he's pushing, and some of its tactics, that scientists and engineers should make decisions for us, that essentially we're too stupid to make our own decisions. This is a whole ideology, and I've done, I don't know how many podcasts, probably 20 podcasts on this topic, but I've discussed it in my book and everything else. And as you'll learn tonight, Musk and his grandfather have been heavily involved in this ideological movement that started in the 1930s. So I'm not against his work. I don't feel in any way, shape, or form that he shouldn't be able to earn as much money as he can possibly earn. So none of that is the issue. This is all about the technocracy ideology, and so because it is a very new. Uh, hold on. Bear with me one. Bear with me 1 second here. Hold on. Bear with me 1 second. I'm having audio issues here. Okay, here we go. All right, I was getting a bit of an echo. So in any event, this is not about being anti, capitalist or even anti Musk. Again, it is all about ideology. So I encourage you to learn about technocracy either from watching my episodes or more importantly, if you really want to dig into this, you should follow the work of Patrick Wood at technocracy.news or Courtney Turner, and I've had them on as guests, and we've been doing these technocracy roundtables once a month. The next one that we're doing is about a month from now. I think it's January the 19th or 21st. We'll send around information as we get closer to that. But you do need to understand that this is ideological. And I just did an X space today, and a lot of the confusion is between technology and technocracy. So a lot of people just view technocracy as, oh, well, this is just using technology to make things more efficient. What could be wrong with that? And it kind of gets lumped into this idea of, all right, well, government's inefficient. You have these big bureaucracies. You're just making it more efficient through the application of technology. And it's not. It's a full-on ideological movement. So you're not reducing the role of government. You're actually making government more powerful. I mean, I'm not supporting the bureaucracy. One of the benefits of the bureaucracy is it's completely incompetent and inefficient. But if you actually took, for instance, the 16 million word, 75,000 page tax code and you had AI enforce it, yes, that would be more efficient. That would not be beneficial to the American people. And the same is true if you just look at the total number of laws that we have in general, most of which are unenforced. Once you realize how many laws there are in the books, if government became ultra efficient, this would actually be a pretty anti-freedom type of situation. So this is why we created the Technocracy Atlas and everything else. What you have to understand is that technocracy is a global movement. So the end game of this is you have one global government, technocratic system, one form of money, which is based on energy credits. So you get rid of the supply demand system and everything becomes a carbon credit based system with a social credit score and AI surveillance on top of this. And this isn't a conspiracy theory. There are literally technocracy documents that we reference in the Technocracy Atlas. This is a full-fledged, full-on movement that really picked up steam in the early 70s and put its mark on the UN. So the UN Agenda 2030 and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are a direct outreach, are technocratic in nature. And in fact, it's the Technocratic Endgame. So those 17 Sustainable Development Goals is elements of a social credit system where your behavior determines your energy credit allotment. This is literally the end game. So this isn't it's not a national thing. It is a global thing. And so this matters now because of how rapidly technocracy has been accelerating. It's interesting to consider that this whole idea of an energy credit based system run by scientists and engineers started in the 1930s. I mean, they were nowhere near having the capacity. This is before the internet. This is before digital currencies. I mean, it's taken about 100 years for the technology to fully enable technocracy, but it is now completely here. And so one of the things you'll see on the Technocracy Atlas side is a kind of a DEFCON system that shows where we are both within the United States and globally with technocracy. Why this matters now, and when I had Hakeem Anwar on when we talked about digital IDs, by 2027, more than half of the globe will have digital IDs. And this is rolling out. 17 countries just kind of rolled out a similar digital ID laws using the same 4 vendors. You have Mexico going live with a biometric digital ID tied to QR codes next year. The US has Real ID, which is digital in 12 states, but the plan is for that to be fully digital by 2027. So 2027 is the magic date where more people on this planet than not will have digital IDs. CBDCs are accelerating rapidly. and arguably accelerating here faster than anywhere else due to the Genius Act, which is a backdoor CBDC, which has captured $27 trillion worth of popular private stablecoins and put it under the control of Congress, which is the entity responsible for financial surveillance. They're the entity responsible for know your customer laws, anti-money laundering laws, the Patriot Act. So I believe we really only have next year to get enough people using alternative private systems and to build scalable solutions. It doesn't have to be rolled out at scale, but we need solutions that can scale for areas like healthcare and food freedom and everything else. And if we don't, if we haven't made material inroads next year, then it's probably game over, because once they've fully rolled out digital IDs and everything, people are sitting around. And if people are passive about this, then it's going to be like what happened with COVID. People are going to say, well, I had to take the UBI. I had to take the digital ID. I didn't have a choice. Remember this, you always have a choice. You may not think you have a choice because you are thinking about things only in your kind of narrow perspective of what you think is possible, which, by the way, they always try to convince you that you only have one or two choices. And upon real close, mature reflection, those two choices are actually exactly the same. But there's a way to kind of break out of that system. But the longer this goes on, the longer they're able to put in place these systems, the more difficult it's going to be to convince people that they actually have alternatives. So this is why I'm chiming in on this right now, because the timing is not advantageous to us. So I'm going to walk through now, because this is kind of what sparked this. The new, just I'm not going to go through the whole document, but I'm going to go through. I'm going to have to look. Let me pull this up on my. I'm going to actually pull up the full tweet, and I'm sure you're not going to be able to read that either. I kind of zoomed in on it, but I'm going to pull up the tweet terms. And by the way, I also want to add the explanation that, well, these problems, standard terms are what happens when the industry gets together and colludes with people in politics to basically pass laws that benefit the entire industry. So it becomes something that you can't negotiate away. So here's a standard term for your privacy. Here's a standard term for liability. This isn't a voluntary contract. This is basically large corporations using lobbyists to bribe politicians to make it so that you have no choice. And then they use this. Anytime somebody tells you, oh, it's boilerplate, or it's the standard term, understand that's what it means. What it means is they use the political system to use the force of the state to force you into a limited set of options. So bear with me here. I am pulling up the tweet. Well, it looks like looks like you lost me. I apologize for that. Let me. I've got to load up these slides again. I'm not sure how I got where I got cut off. I was actually just going through the terms. I'm not going to go through them all again. I will give you a really fast version of this, which is that they can use your data for AI training. They own all of the data. They can do anything they want with it. They can sell it. They can give it to governments. They can use it in any form they want, any form of media. If you have a dispute, it goes to their court in Tarrant County, Texas. They can delete your account for any reason or no reason, zero due process. If you access more than 1 million posts in 24 hours, you owe them $15,000 per million, which has big implications for journalists and researchers. They deserve the right to hand your DMs and all of your information over to the government. If you test their systems or try to expose censorship, that is a terms violation. There's a 1-year statute of limitation, and there's a maximum financial liability of $100. The most you can sue them for is $100. So again, this is not a great. These aren't all of the terms, but they're just some of the terms, and they're pretty horrendous. And so keep in mind from the earlier part, Musk wants to be able to. He's just funded a group that has put out a poll that's pushing for federal regulation as opposed to states being able to regulate AI. But I mean, based on his terms and conditions, I mean, can you imagine what this is going to look like? I mean, this is the real fear with this because somebody had actually commented, would you rather have the states doing this? And my point was, I don't think anybody should be regulating this, but when it's done at a federal level and it's done through big tech, look at what's happened over the past few years with the censorship industrial complex. Let's look at what happened during COVID. Let's look at the control that public health has had over content and search and everything else. So these are the same people, and now they want to control AI. So we will receive absolutely no protection. There's nothing that Congress is going to do to protect us. They're only going to protect a certain group of large tech players. This will be to the disadvantage of anybody that is a small company or a small or a startup or an innovator. This will only benefit the large players. So, but this isn't, again, when I put this out here, this became a viral tweet because people thought that this was a rare thing or that, this is just an exceptionally bad set of terms and agreements. And actually, this was the same agreement they had last year. They actually just added a few things on the AI front, a few things about prompt engineering and everything else, but the basic terms, the term of they own all of your content, they can sell it and give it to government, that's not new. You've already been subject to that. So if you're thinking about canceling X now because this new agreement goes into effect January 1st, 2015, and you're an artist and you think that this is a big deal for that reason, understand that you've already been subject. They already own everything you've published. I saw people saying, well, I'm going to start publishing junk content. I'm not going to publish my art moving forward on January the 15th. You're already kind of lost. So these terms of service follow a blueprint. And again, this is part of the point of the Own Nothing website. I've been figuring out how I want to roll this out because I don't think that many people are going to go to a website and cut and paste the agreement to see what the score is. So I think instead of making it this thing where I may add that or have that functionality, but I think more what I'm going to do is just in the 7 different categories that we have: finance, healthcare, so on and so forth. Just put the big ones up there that affect the most people because that'll be enough. You won't even need to see more than that. It will be so eye-opening and shocking that you don't need to see every detail. I'll add the ability for you to go to that level of granularity, but I think to have the biggest impact and for people to know this is standard across all of these agreements. When you read, and X is now blurring lines, right? Because essentially it's a social media agreement, but then it's also an AI company. And so a lot of the stuff that they're adding is related to AI. So it's the worst of a Chat GPT agreement and Facebook, right? You're actually getting the worst of both worlds, because X is an entity that's involved in multiple areas. And of course, as I'll discuss, Elon is going to use this data for his other companies as well. On this whole technocracy aspect of this, as I mentioned, technocracy is something that started as a movement. Technocracy Inc. It's an actual organization. It started in the basement of Columbia University, and they would have meetings. And you can Google this. You can see all the pictures of these big meetings, men and women, and they would all be wearing the same gray suit. They actually had something called Technocracy Gray. GM would actually offer Technocracy Gray cars, and so it was a real organized movement. And Musk's grandfather, Joshua Haldeman, was actually the head of the Canadian Technocracy Party. And a big part of the rallying cry at the time was engineers should run society and politicians are obsolete. Now, I don't take fault with the idea that politicians are obsolete. I do take issue with the idea that engineers should run society from the top down, and that we are too stupid to make our own decisions, and that our rights are essentially replaced by this system. So his maternal grandfather was literally the head of this entire thing. Now, just because his grandfather was the head of this party doesn't mean that it carries over to him. But as you will see by the end of this talk tonight, he clearly has fully embraced technocracy, and he's explicitly stated that he is for technocracy with respect to Mars. But clearly, by some of the other things that he's stating, he's actually actively promoting technocracy right now. So let's see here. So I mentioned Technocracy Inc. And as we go through this, one of the foundational principles of technocracy has always been to replace money with energy credits. That is the whole key of it. Currency equals wattage. This is the number one tenet of technocracy, and then everything else builds from there. Again, amazing that they came up with this idea. How are you going to manage and measure that kind of system in the 1930s? But now it's not that difficult to do. And I've shown many episodes. I mean, you can check out the AI chatbot. I show this Doconomy MasterCard that people are already signing up for, which is a MasterCard created with Doconomy Bank and the UN that tracks your carbon and shuts off the card when you use too much carbon. And what you find is that MasterCard and others have already been working with large multinational corporations to build a database that tracks your financial transactions and ties them to energy credits. This is something that's already been built. So none of these things are in the realm of theories or conspiracies. This is actual technology that's been built. So this is an important thing to understand. So this whole price-based system and supply and demand is not part of this model moving forward. So the original version of technocracy is that it would be continent-wide. It was originally a North American technate. So and under this system, there would be no nations, no democracy. It would be, rule by technical specification. And I won't go through all the details of this. There was a civil war, and the kind of the movement died for a while, but it got picked back up in the 1970s, in particular by David Rockefeller and Brzezinski, who formed the Trilateral Commission and brought these ideas back. And actually went to the UN a year after the forming of the Trilateral Commission and pushed in this, what was called the New International Economic Order, took these technocratic ideas and made it official UN policy. And this is really the framework for Agenda 2030. So it went from being originally something that was just the North American continent that is now a global system. So when I say it's a global system, I'm not like I'm not making this up, or this isn't a hypothetical scenario. It's literally, this is something that's been in the works now for 50 years through the United Nations. So in this particular model, and then so now when we start All right, this isn't going so well. I seem to be having pretty profound internet issues, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna reschedule this episode because I think at this point between the audio, it actually in this instance my computer completely crashed, which I've never had happen before. It actually just shut off, and I'm looking at this and there was enough battery plugged in, so I have no idea what's going on. So at this point, I think that I'm going to call this episode for now, and I'll figure out what I do. I might pre-record this or put it out in some different format, but I think at this point, other people are complaining about the quality of the audio, so I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board and figure out a new solution for when I travel, because this keeps on happening. So anyway, appreciate everyone who tuned in. This one will be redone in some format. So thank you for your patience so far this evening, and just understand this content will be coming back. But I do encourage you, in the meantime, because of the urgency of this issue, at least look at the tweet that I have on Musk and start looking into technocracy and understanding what this is all about, and just appreciate that this is accelerating really rapidly. That even in the span of last week, X put out this new terms of service that basically allows him to train all of his AIs and do whatever he wants with data. And then today, our crypto czar is out pushing propaganda that Musk funded through a poll to allow the federal government to regulate AI centrally. This should be, as Musk says, concerning. So again, I'm not against the guy for what he's accomplished. I don't have any ill will towards the fact that he has a lot of money at all. You have to understand what technocracy is and appreciate how quickly this is going. So no Q&A tonight, and as I said, I'm only about halfway through the information here tonight, but I will put this out in different form and make sure that this information does get out. In any event, thank you for your patience, and I'll play a song on the way out. And the next podcast, I will be at home with my stable connection. So Monday at 6 p.m., and the topic there should be, if everything lines up, will be Mike Adams. We'll be talking about how you can use AI privately and outside of big tech to improve your life and empower yourself. So with that, have a good night, and we'll see you on Monday.
Oh, 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 oh. Live free or die, but death's not the worst. It's waking up empty, it's dying of thirst. Trading your days for insurance and pills, while the machine builds your cage and you're paying the bill. Quiet desperation, that's the real grave. A life half lived as a comfortable slave. This ain't what you were born for, you know it's true. You feel it in your chest, breaking through. They're wiring the walls, closing in, tracking your dollars underneath your skin. Left and right, same throne, same crown. No one stands up, no one makes a sound. Ballad like it means something real. Two wings of one bird, same deal, same steel. We say no, no to the change, no to the dollar running through our veins, no to the white coats, no to the lies. This is the day that we rise. It's hers right here, it's hers right now. Your rights are yours, you take them